Welcome to Get the Facts, the show that gives you information on the topics that add value to your life. Now, this isn't something a lot of us think about when it comes to our budgets and day-to-day spending, but if you are now or you plan to become a homeowner or the owner of any property, it is something that you want to think about doing, if you haven't already. We're talking about property insurance and why you may find it useful. With us today to discuss this matter is Maureen Moss-Ferguson, Regional Sales Manager at Advantage General Insurance Company Limited. Mrs. Moss-Ferguson, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into it. Let's start with definitions. What is property insurance?
So you know that insurance in itself, it's a risk transfer mechanism.
We're transferring the risk to who?
The company, of course.
All right,
So
okay.
you transferred it to me.
Great.
Right. So by doing so, you want to ensure that, one, it protects you against any eventualities, all the acts of God, and so it also gives you that peace of mind. You want to know that in the event of anything happening, and I would want to tell you that your property, for most persons, it's one of your biggest investment that you'll ever made in life.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
And nobody wants to know that you would have invested, sometimes maybe everything you would have earned would have invested in that property. So you want to ensure that in the event, and of course you would have seen what happens just over the past month leading up to now.
Right.
You find the rains, flooding, land slippage, everything. So you want to know if, if your house, your property, whatever it is, if it's located in any of those areas that have been affected, then you can turn to us. And of course, we will compensate you for your losses and the damage that you would have sustained. So it is critical, very important for you to protect what you would have worked so hard.
Right. And you're not funding this out of your own pockets. So that you're literally transferring the cost of whatever recovery is needed to
definitely
an insurance company.
Right. You do that.
And you've mentioned home, but business owners own property too. So it's not just homeowners.
Not homeowners only. All the commercial buildings that you would have had, as you mentioned, the business owners, most of them have their own property.
Right.
So property insurance covers property. And property is very wide because, of course, it does not include is when you look at the motor insurance, but property is property.
Okay.
So any property that you would have owned comes under the property insurance.
Got it. It's fascinating you brought up motor insurance because in our conversation prior to this, you mentioned that motor insurance is mandatory.
It is.
But property insurance
it's not.
Isn't.
Right, it's not.
So it's sort of people do it if they're forced or if they want to.
Yes, or if they're forced to one, because usually many persons cannot afford to buy the property out of pocket.
Okay.
And so you go to the bank and get some money.
And the bank says
right. So once the bank would have disbursed their loan, you have to.
Right.
It's a must. It's mandatory that you get insurance.
So you're not being forced to get insurance, but you, as a property insurance advocate, if I may call it that, Maureen, what are the top 2 reasons you would say that, hey, this is important, even though it's not mandatory?
It's important because oftentimes, as I said, it's a risk transfer mechanism. So you transfer that risk to the insurance company. And this also provides you with peace of mind. Right. Peace of mind is very critical. Right. So in the event of you insuring your property, you can sleep well, walk well, you can do everything well, resting assured that whatever happens, my company will take care of that.
Got it. Are there any property types that can't be insured?
Yes, we sort of, because we look, there's some properties, of course, they're in certain areas, the areas that are flood prone. We tend to walk away from that. Near to the sea, because exactly the sea and inundated and all that. Of course, we want to look at the soil also, in case you have some properties that are located in sandy soil, slippage and all of that. So we normally want to know exactly, and that is why the location and the construction of your property is critical to us. We want to know that because some locations, of course, and whilst we're not trying to be stereotypical, but there are some areas also that is somewhat dangerous. And it's basically once you know that you would have insured the property in that area, it's likely that something going to happen. You're expecting.
Underscoring that word,
Right.
likely.
Likely, yes.
Right.
So we have, of course, we're very prudent in our check and balances because we know that, of course, once you insure, the likelihood of a claim, and that's why insurance is there.
Right.
We want to ensure if you have a claim, we're there to protect you.
Got you.
But of course, we have to be very careful and prudent in how we select our risk also.
So when it comes to insuring your property, an assessment has to be made. Can you walk us through just at a high level how that assessment process goes?
So often if it's a risk that it's depending on the magnitude, of course you have some very large industrial operations that's above me and you. So we would want to send a professional, the expertise to go and do their assessment, the evaluation of those. There's some small minor risks. Let's say you call me, Maureen, I need you to insure my house. I'll just find out where's this house you're in,
Right.
wherever you're at, you're on Malines Road, wherever it is. I just want to know the construction, the sum insured, if you have any losses. There's certain things that I would have asked.
The basic
but I don't
assessment.
necessarily
Right.
I don't necessarily have to come and, once I have an idea, fair idea of where the area is.
Right.
But of course, as I had indicated before, the construction is very critical because that has to do with how we rate, how we charge you.
Okay.
Because of course, you're thinking, when you look at, let's say, a slab roof,
Yeah.
right, as against a zinc roof, that's a vast difference.
True.
So I'm assuming in the event of a hurricane and you have a slab roof,
One at
then
high risk.
definitely, but a zinc roof, it's somewhat expected. My roof might be blown off. So I'm going to be looking, if I'm those two risks come to my attention for assessment, I'm going to be looking at them differently. So the rating will be different.
That affects the
Yes,
rating.
It does.
All right. Please stay with us. We're talking property insurance, why it is important, even though it's not mandatory, it's important. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Healing begins within. Take a moment for yourself. Healing is a journey. Start yours today.
Welcome back. We're discussing property insurance with Maureen Moss Ferguson. Lady Maureen, let's get into some of the common mistakes. People make some mistakes when they're insuring, don't it?
Yes, they do.
The top one.
One of the biggest mistakes persons make is not spending the time to actually find the true value of your property. So you come for insurance,
Okay.
and you just, I think my house is $30 million.
That's a 10-year-old figure.
Right, and you don't take time out to know the actual value. And when you do that, it's gonna affect you if you have a claim.
In what way?
Once you underinsure your property, there's something that's very popular. You talk about the average clause.
Before we go forward, let's just pull out that word and properly define.
Right.
Underinsure means you're insured
Underinsured.
for a value that is below the current
Below
property
your
value.
current property
All right,
value.
average
That's
claim.
what it is.
Yes.
So if you do that, then you're going to be affected by what we call the average clause. And how this works.
Yes.
What the average clause says, if your sum insured is less than the value at risk, then average applies. So basically what it is saying, if you insure less than what the actual value is, whatever proportion you underinsure it by, you have to
You're going to have to find that.
find that part, right?
Yeah.
So if you underinsure, you're going to share in the loss.
All
That's
right.
what it's basically saying.
So let's do a case study.
Yes.
We've largely had active hurricane
Right.
seasons for the last few years.
Yes.
Breeze blow, water come, foundation erode. A huge piece of tree
Yes.
falls on the house. You've insured the house for 10 million, but
Yes.
it's really at about 30 million.
Right.
Maybe you never know, or maybe you're trying to pay a lower
Right.
premium, so you gave a smaller figure. And now I filed a claim. What happens here?
I like that. Persons want to pay sometimes a lower figure so they insure for less.
Ah.
So, right. So if you said you insured for 10 million, you did say that?
Yes.
And the actual value at the time of the loss, because the loss adjuster will determine what is the actual value at the time of the loss. So as you had indicated, let's say the actual value is 30 million and you insure it for 10. So there's a formula that works for average clause. So it's a 10 million divided by the 30
Ouch.
times the loss.
Oh, wow.
So whatever the loss is when you work that formula, that's what you're going to be getting paid for. And then you see 10 over 30 is 1/3. So clearly you're going to get 1/3 of the loss, whatever
Right.
that is.
Right. And
So it does not. I will encourage persons ensure that you know the actual value of your property so you can accurately insure.
all right. So a common mistake is underinsurance.
Yes.
Is there any problem with over-insuring?
Not necessarily, because if you overinsured, what it does in the event of a loss, as I said, the loss adjuster again would have gone out to do his evaluation and they will report back to us what the value is. So let's say you overinsure you and there's a loss, you will be paid the loss.
Right.
So the most we will do, based on how you overinsured, we can refund you the premium for the amount that is overinsured by.
Okay.
But you won't get payment if there's a loss for the overinsured part.
Got you. Got you.
No.
So knowing the value is very important.
Very, very important.
Very important. How can you give our property owners some tips? How can they keep up to date with the value of their properties so that they are properly insured?
Right. So whatever area you're in, I would encourage you to just, because of course there are times when persons discuss.
Right.
A house might be sold next door to you. So you can basically ask a question. Or I would suggest you get a valuator. You know, sometimes you don't have to ask them to prepare the formal report. But you can ask, you know, this is my house. Give me an idea of what you think it is.
Got you.
Because it's very important. When it comes to insurance, you have the actual value.
Yeah.
If you don't, you will be impacted by average. And of course, that is the time when persons get real agitated. I didn't bargain for this.
Right, right.
So, you know, it is important also that as underwriters, we explain to all customers the importance of this average clause. It's very critical. And that they understand what it means and sign to it, that they actually have read it and understand. And so in the event of a loss, you know,
That formula comes
right,
into play.
comes into play, it does.
I got it. Now, we mentioned earlier,
Yes.
Jamaica, well, the Caribbean, has been going through over average active seasons.
Right.
Now, how does that impact property insurance premiums?
It does, because of course, you know, and even like the past year, you may be aware that we do reinsure our business. And when there's an active season, the reinsurers, they're definitely going to increase their premium. Sometimes this is challenging for us to get capacity. Because this
Capacity being?
is the amount of insurance that we would want them to take.
Okay.
Because remember, when we take your policy, we insure a portion overseas to the insurers. So sometimes it's very challenging for them to give us the amount that we want. And so, yes, it impacts the rate also. So persons might wonder, but I didn't have a loss. There's not, I never make a claim. Why is my rate going up?
Okay.
But, you know, when the reinsurers dictate to us that this is the rate I want from you. And if we don't adhere, then definitely going to impact our business. So we will have to go according to the rates that they dictate.
Right,
So
right.
it will impact all our policyholders that have property.
Got
It
you.
does.
Got you.
Yeah.
We're in the last few seconds of this interview, Lady Maureen, and I'd love you to speak directly to the audience at this moment. Whatever is on your heart regarding property insurance.
Right. Even though property insurance is not mandatory, I'm suggesting for your peace of mind and to ensure that you would have secured the property that you would have saved. Maybe it's your life investment to purchase. It's important that you have insurance. So always think about securing your property once you would have purchased anything.
All right, Mrs. Moss Ferguson, thank you for helping us get the facts today.
You're most welcome.
And thank you for joining us. This has been Get the Facts. We've been discussing property insurance and why it's important. Now, I do hope you have a productive week, and see you next time.